you could talk to him, you could ask him a question. So,
and it's truly it
is amazing.
It's AI. You feel like you're talking to Dalí.
Yeah. And we're still working with OpenAI, and it uses 11 Labs, which is a pretty cool voice tool. And we decided, hey, what if we used his lobster phone as the device to speak to him? So that's been running in the museum, and it's been great. And we've won a lot of awards. And then, we probably will, as technology increases in terms of AI, we probably will continue to develop our own Dalí agent.
Welcome to Money Market, a Bank of Tampa podcast. We highlight the businesses, expert advice, local economy, and points of interest in the Tampa Bay market. Follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you find your favorite podcast. And make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend or colleague. I am your host, Owen Lefebvre, the Pinellas County Market President for the Bank of Tampa, Tampa Bay's oldest and largest community bank. Today's guest is Beth Harrison, the Digital Experience Director at the Dalí Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida, overseeing digital initiatives that merge art and technology. Since 2022, she has led the interactive exhibits, the AR tours, projection map installations, and VR experiences, enhancing engagement with Salvador Dalí's work. Previously, she worked in advanced technology for film and TV, collaborating with A&E, the History Channel, Oxygen Media, and HSN. Her expertise in digital media and immersive storytelling informs her approach, ensuring the museum's digital experience remains engaging, innovative, and true to Dalí's artistic legacy. And if anybody has been there, it definitely does. And if you haven't, why not? You need to go. Beth, welcome to Money Market.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an introduction.
It was, a lot of these, I looked to see how I can condense it, but you have such a fascinating background. I didn't want to take anything out. And I know there was more to even include upon that, but you have such an interesting journey to from TV to the museum and in the art world. I would love for you to tell our listeners, how did you get into TV, and then how did you end up in a museum?
I was a biology major,
okay,
and I loved communications. And I got an internship with PBS in New York City on an 8-part series on the human brain.
Fascinating.
And I was I just fell in love with, how TV is made. And that's how it started. And then what happened is there was a point where I thought, things seem to be shifting. And I read a book called Being Digital, and it changed the course of my life. I started thinking about what the future of television would be like. And based on this book that described that things were going to be transmitted in bits and bytes. Yes, that long ago. I thought, I need to think different, and I need to prepare myself for the future, or else I'm going to become a dinosaur. And so I went to graduate school late in life. I attended New York University, has a program called ITP,
what does that stand for?
Interactive Telecommunication Program.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you've heard of MIT's Media Lab. It's a very similar program, and it's been around as long as the Media Lab. And I just I was exposed to a lot of different things like physical computing and, just feeling comfortable around digital technologies. And their core mission was to help students learn to use these tools as a storytelling device, not as a means to an end. And so what's interesting, and I could talk about that a little bit, is how we apply a similar philosophy at the Dalí in terms of technology. But after that, I went back into my career world and just started working for various cable networks, focused on the advanced tech side of the business. So anything that was coming down the pike, whether it was mobile, whether it was video on demand or interactive television, that was the focus. And I also started working a little bit with some startup companies, helping them with business development. So wearing a lot of hats.
And was that just consulting on the side, or did you get out?
That was part of my TV journey also. Like, I think I left A&E in 2008 during the great 2008 times.
Great recession, yeah.
And worked for a startup, which was really interesting. And it just, because you get to wear so many hats when you work for startups. And then
What an interesting time to pivot to in
yeah,
the worst economy.
it was a guy that I
You're a
went to
contrarian.
grad school with, and he
Okay.
was kind of a business and artsy guy too, like me. Like, and that's the thing about me. It's like my mother was an artist, my father was a businessman, so I apply both sides of my brain, and so it's unusual when you see somebody in a creative field who also has a good head for business.
Yes.
But
You're a bit of a unicorn, I think.
so and then I got a call around 2011 to come down and work for HSN because they had patented technology around television commerce. And they developed an application in like '05 called Shop by Remote. And yes, you could use your remote control to purchase things on TV. So this was before Netflix and Amazon. When they developed
before smartphones.
Yeah, when they developed it, it was the first of its kind. So I moved down to St. Petersburg to help them develop and distribute these applications. And then, I think the fate of HSN and QVC. And so our group was disbanded. I did some consulting in St. Pete, and then I got a call about the Dalí, looking for someone to help manage their digital experiences, blending art and technology. I was like, wow, this job was like completely created for me. This is like my dream job. And
so there was no question of like, did these go together? You were like, this blends my world.
So wild, because it was in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, I love it, but not exactly the hub of media. I'd been working for Oxygen and History Channel, and I was like, do I have to go back to New York? Because I really did not want to go back to New York.
Sure.
And so 3 years later, here I am talking to you.
Well, a great story. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. I'm glad we were able to keep you in St. Petersburg and Tampa Bay. But the Dalí Museum, so I got a couple facts here. Largest collection of Salvador Dalí's artwork outside of Spain. The most visited, I found this was an interesting fact. I had no idea. Most visited single artist museum in the Southern America, right? Or is it all of America?
It's the most visited museum in the Florida area. Okay. It's the largest single artist museum in the United States.
That's incredible. Right here in our backyard.
And 3 Michelin stars.
Yes. And that was my other fact. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, that is incredible. I know it's a museum, but because of your technology and the museum's technology, I don't necessarily see it as a museum. I mean, it is just an immersive experience. And yes, you've got the 8 galleries of artwork that are there consistently. But what's the thought around, I guess, pivoting from just a true museum to creating the just experience?
Yeah, no,
maybe not the best of questions, but
I get asked that. What's the connection?
Yes.
And also, by the way, CNN voted us not too long ago the top 12 most innovative museums in the world.
I believe that.
I was like, wow, that's amazing accolade. So let's start with Salvador Dalí, because all roads lead to Dalí. He was not just a painter of melting clocks. He did so many other, he was just so multi-talented. But he also was a lover of science and technology. He started reading science magazines when he was like, 7 years old, when he was learning to read. And over the years, he incorporated different types of innovations and technology into his work. Fascinated with DNA. I think he met Crick and Watson. You see the double helix in his paintings. He was one of the first to create holograms, which he did with Alice Cooper. And there are other aspects very much into geography and mathematics and the golden ratio. And so you see in his work all this, way of incorporating science, mathematics, and technology. And so we lean into that. So there's that opportunity to do that. But then also, it's like, how can we engage, as a museum, I kind of see us as a content company, and having worked at content companies, you have to evolve.
Yes.
You have to evolve with your audience. And these things that you carry around in your pocket, you look at, a zillion times a day, impact how people, I think, experience the world.
100%.
So you have to somewhat meet them where they are to bring them closer to the art. And that's not to say like all of our, demographic is like, it's really different, it's broken up, as you can imagine, into, how people want to experience art. But think about like how many people still have the patience to sit and like just look at a painting, which we want people to do. And so we have over the years created these digital experiences as part of our storytelling abilities. So, for example, 2016, 2017, we did an exhibition of Dalí and Disney because they had a relationship. And Dalí did some work with Disney. And at the time, it's like, what if we could journey into one of Dalí's paintings? Well, that was the same time that Oculus Rift and PC VR was coming, becoming popular. So working with Goodby Silverstein, we developed Dreams of Dalí, it's a VR experience, virtual reality, and you go on a little journey through one of his famous paintings, and you encounter various classic symbols. And we run that. We have 3 stations in the museum, and we run it every day, and people still love it from 2017.
Amazing.
And many of the visitors are putting on a VR headset for their first time. So that's pretty cool. And we've done a lot of, we have a augmented reality experience called Masterworks in AR.
Is that the one you just use your phone?
You use your phone, and you trigger different animations that, so the paintings come alive. And then we offer some other interesting sort of didactic, information about the painting. So the painting comes alive, you engage with it more, and you learn more about it. So we've been using technology as a communications tool to tell stories. And we've gotten into working in artificial intelligence, and we have some really great experiences that I would
love to talk about that. But I also think just that experience, as you're talking, to me, it really does 2 things. You don't want a museum to be static because you have to give people a reason to come back.
Yes.
And I know that's why you change the artwork that you're showing.
We rotate. So we have, in addition to our permanent collection, we have 2 big shows that rotate every year. Now we're just finishing up a show on murals called Outside In, where we invited 12 street artists to come in and paint our walls and design murals based on Dalí or something that inspired them. So a lot of the muralists that you see around our area are participating.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's very cool.
That will run through
this weekend.
The Shine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going forward, depending on when this airs, what can we expect in future months?
So Thanksgiving, we open Dalí and Giacometti. Alberto Giacometti was a well-known sculptor. You would recognize his work. He does his sort of thin sculptures, sculpture. And so we are borrowing about 30 of his pieces from Paris. That'll be coming in. And then we do a comparison of Dalí and Giacometti's work over time. And their paths crossed. He was a surrealist as well. And then in addition, I'm working on a digital experience. It's going to be pretty cool. I think it's a projection mapped experience called The Endless Garden, where our visitors answer some fun, surreal questions, and they generate an object, a surreal object, and that gets projected into the garden and sort of comes alive a little bit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that'll be cool.
And that's a different experience than the dream.
Yes, the dream tapestry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about the dream tapestry.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's what's going on. And then I don't know if you've been into our Dalí Dome. We have a very large dome with 14 projectors. And we just launched Van Gogh Alive that we optimized for our dome, and it's pretty spectacular.
And it was there previously, but it was rectangular based,
Exactly.
right? So now it's in the dome.
Now it's in the dome, and his paintings are blended like 360, and you really feel like you're inside the painting. And it's a very emotional story. I feel like you're seeing a movie, with the beginning, middle, and
And
end
he has
of
such a
his
sad story.
It's such a sad story, but it's like, you just compare it to like today, if he was alive today. And one of his quotes says, "I know my paintings don't sell well." And I was just like, wow.
No, little did he know. I know.
Poor guy.
But I think that digital element to it does, outside of just going in and staring at a photograph and trying to interpret, which there is some beauty in that, in self interpretation.
Yeah,
right?
no, of course. I think there is something to be said about looking at a painting. And I do want to say, like, we do encourage and help our visitors learn about his work by looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, our mission is to promote his work and his life. But our loftier mission is to ensure that, like, when people leave our museum, they are different from when they came in, because they learn about how to see things the way Dalí saw things, because Dalí and perception was so different. He definitely saw things differently.
Yes.
And what's interesting also is that we apply his philosophy of looking and seeing the world to, two programs that, one is we have a junior docent summer camp, and we teach kids how to be docents and how to tell a story about a painting, and which provides them, like, with a ton of self-confidence and some analytical,
all kinds of additional
skills.
skills.
And then in addition, we also have an innovation labs program where we teach businesses how to think and look at things differently, to help with creative problem solving, to think more innovatively. So that's been really successful for us too. Not a lot of people know about that.
I did not know about that.
Yeah,
so
pretty cool.
But that technology piece mirrored with the artwork, and especially the augmented tours, maybe because you're not only being educated, but you're incorporating additional senses with the auditory, hearing the stories. It does create an emotional experience as well, that I think you couldn't get that by just a self-directed tour looking at artwork.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important, just when you're creating interactive experiences in general, that there's like a feedback loop, that you're offering something to someone. So I think the Dream Tapestry is a great example, and it's also an example of how we've been using AI to provide, to give visitors some creative tools.
And that's super cool. Can you talk about that?
Yes. So the Dream Tapestry was created to support an exhibition that we ran several years ago called The Shape of Dreams. And it looked at 5 centuries of dream paintings, dream visualization of dreams through paintings. So it was a traditional exhibition. But then we asked ourselves, how can we enable our guests to visualize their dreams? And around the same time, OpenAI's Dalí, the text-to-image platform, was coming to market. So we partnered with OpenAI, and we said, we'd really love to bring Dalí to the Dalí. And Goodby Silverstein and Partners helped create the Dream Tapestry, in which visitors enter text, scan a QR code, enter text about their dream, and then that text becomes a visual image, their dream image, and at the time representing styles that were also included in that show. And then we had like 6 guest images would go onto this giant video wall and then get stitched together into one giant dream tapestry. So we said, this is what our community is dreaming about at this time. And it was communal and it was personal. And people would then be able to take their dream image, share it on their phone. And so it was very successful. And we run a smaller version of it still. And we rotate styles. We just had a street art style. Now it's going to go back to surrealism. So it's been great. And it's just a great way to utilize AI tools for our visitors who may not necessarily have access to it. I mean, it's becoming more, popular. But at the time when we launched it, it was like first to.
Or just directed, even if you have access to AI I mean, the average person isn't sitting around and saying, I wonder if I just put my dreams into a Dalí
Right.
piece of art, what would that look like?
Right.
So it's,
Right.
I mean, it's.
So, yeah. So, and then also another way that we've used AI is just how to bring Dalí into the museum, how to connect him with our visitors. So 2018, 2019, we developed Dalí Live, which was, this was kind of before the AI platforms and language models became so prevalent. Yeah. And so Goodby, Silverstein and Partners really kind of created their own model. And we're fortunate because Dalí was alive, and we have video and audio in the time of all this multimedia assets that we have to train on. And so we created these videos of him. We used an actor, but then we used his overlaid mannerisms and used his voice. And so we had 3.
And this was the phone, right? When you walk in, there was the screen. You could pick up the phone.
This is before the phone.
This is before the phone.
This
okay.
is the precursor to the phone.
Okay.
And so we had 3 units situated in the museum. One of them was, getting data so he knew hi, today's Wednesday. I see it's cloudy outside, and then we have another one that before you leave, you can take a selfie with him. And so another kind of personal memento that you remember, after you've left us.
And everybody wants a selfie. So,
yes. So that's the first time we're bringing him in. And that was created in celebration of his, I think, 115th birthday.
Okay.
And as the technology has gotten more advanced, we just launched Ask Dalí. Was it about a year and a half ago? And that was have a conversation, ask him a question using his lobster phone. And so that's been wildly successful.
So talk about the conception of that. Where did your partners?
Yes. Goodby. So we work with this amazing agency, Goodby, Silverstein and Partners. They're based in San Francisco. Jeff Goodby is, iconic and the legend. If you know about the Got Milk commercial, I mean, that's one thing he's known of among many. And so they're always coming up with kind of ideas based on things that we're looking to do. And so they came to us and they said, hey, 11 Labs, this voice platform was starting to come to market, and they were messing around with 11 Labs and working on the Dalí prompt, if you will. So you could talk to him, you could ask him a question. So
and it's truly interesting. I mean, it is
amazing.
AI. You feel like you're talking to Dalí.
Yeah. And we're still working with OpenAI, and it uses 11 Labs, which is a pretty cool voice tool. And we decided, hey, what if we used his lobster phone as the device to speak to him with? And so that's been running in the museum, and it's been great. And we've won a lot of awards with that. And then, we probably will, as technology increases in terms of AI, we probably will continue to develop our own Dalí agent.
Yeah.
That we'll use
Dalí hologram.
Ways. Yeah. That's, that's the goal.
Yeah.
To really get them in the museum in holographic form. But, it's
now,
not.
how did you train the model? I mean, was it a number of, and I've seen a number of videos, but was there the breadth of videos out there to be able to use to get his mannerisms down?
All right. So for Dalí Lives, where he is on video, yes, they trained. We do have some video of that I can share. They showing GSP training the model and going through a lot of video content of him and his face and his mannerisms and his voice. I mean, this was before 11 Labs or, ChatGPT. And again, these are videos Dalí Lives at, and he comes and he speaks to you. So now we have this, conversation,
the interactive,
which is really cool because you really feel like you're talking to him. So yeah, and it's we're going to continue to develop that. And I don't know if we're expanding the museum. So part of the expansion is to incorporate digital experiences, and then the other part is for community and educational spaces.
Okay.
But we will be adding some digital experiences to the new building. And,
Has anybody experienced that actually knew Dalí? I mean, I know his stepdaughter is still alive, but someone that just a friend that has gone into.
There are some people that have worked with him, I believe, who are still around, but I haven't connected with them. I think probably our curatorial team knows about it. I mean, I think somebody did say, like, Dalí would say bonjour, or because I guess he used to say that a lot, bonjour, instead of, maybe we had him saying hola, and they'd say no, he'd say bonjour.
He was Spanish.
Yeah.
So you would guess.
But he was, but he lived like he was Spanish. Yeah, of course. And he spent a lot of time in Paris. Mm-hmm. He spent time in America. As a matter of fact, yesterday we announced our exhibition for next summer will be Dalí in America. It's a 250-year anniversary of America. Mm-hmm. So we're doing an exhibition about Dalí being in America and all the work that he created and the people he collaborated with, in addition to Disney, Hitchcock, the Marx Brothers, a lot. Yeah. So that'll be next summer.
I do wonder. So I think it's incredible. And I know people's reaction. I mean, you've gotten awards and people are just blown away by it. But yeah, in the back of my mind, I'd wonder if there was someone that was close thinking that this in some way distorts his legacy because it's not really him. And
yeah, we had initially, I think when they launched Dalí Lives, this was before I joined, there was some negative feedback about it. But the thing is that there's this famous quote from Dalí, Dalí did not believe in his death. He felt that certainly his art would live forever. And he said, Dalí will never die, and that the people in the cafes in Figueres, well, Dalí is not dead, and they'll still be talking about him. So that's another thing that we have in our favor is not only did he not believe in his death, but he loved technology. I wonder if he, what he'd be doing with artificial intelligence. I have an idea of it, but I can't, it's my own personal opinion.
Okay, well, I know it's only a guess. And what do you think he'd be doing?
I think he would be all over it. I think he would have been one of the first to use these image tools, and I think that he'd be using the video.
Now, he passed away in '89. Yeah. Is that right? So there was an opportunity for him to get into video. I mean, did he play with some of that?
I don't know if he played. Well, yeah. I mean, I know he did. I mean, I should say I don't know. He was like a filmmaker in like the 20s and 30s. I mean, he made films with Louis Buñuel. And so he was always messing around with, film and video. For Spellbound, he created the scenic design for that film. So he, and we have a lot of video footage of him because he liked to be in front of the camera. He was interviewed a lot. There's a Dick Cavett clip where he shows up with his anteater. That's kind of famous. I don't know if you've ever seen that. No. He's quite a character.
Our listeners need to Google that one.
He was quite a character, but he's our character, which is so great, which is why everyone should really go to the museum and check it out, because we're so lucky to have this collection here. And I think a lot of people don't realize how special it is.
Yes, absolutely. Go check it out. What other trends are you seeing in museums that are, I guess, inspiring to you all, but maybe also that, I mean, you're at the cutting edge of all of this and people adopting what you're doing.
I have to tell you, I mean, we are at the cutting edge. Like, I was invited to go speak on a panel in France on museum innovation, and Bonjour. One was on projection mapping.
Okay.
And the other one was on mixed reality, virtual reality. In terms of museums in the United States, it was the Dalí Museum from St. Petersburg and the Cleveland Art Museum. those two museums, and the person who put the who organized it, he leads a trade group of innovation in museums in France and Europe, and he follows U.S. museums. So he knew. I'd never met him before, but he had been following, what's going on, and he knew that our museum and the Cleveland Art Museum.
You're in good company.
Yeah. So it was just so interesting. Not like the Met or MoMA,
right?
Yeah, Dalí Museum. So it is like we are the leaders in it. So I have a lot of pride about that. I don't like to boast about it, but for whatever it is, museum industry is very traditional industry. And and a lot of the people that sort of are in charge of what's shown are art historians. They're historians. So they're not the first to embrace new technologies, and I respect that. They want people to come in and look at a painting.
Very traditional. Right.
But I think that's important. And I think we need to also help people learn to look and see art, to ask, not just look at it, but, what are you seeing? And to really take it like one or two levels, because I think people may be intimidated by art. I've heard people say, I'm not a museum person. I don't know what that means, but they have said it. I'm very fortunate because my parents took us to museums when we were young, but people don't necessarily do that anymore. So
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say I'm not a museum person.
I have,
Huh.
but anyway, I mean, I think it just stopping what you're doing and just looking at a painting, and also listening to a docent. We have the best docents.
They are fantastic.
Their education. When I started, they're like, why don't you take the docent class? I'm like, okay, how long is it? It's like 4 or 5 months every Tuesday.
But I
from
believe it because it is. They have just a ton of information.
Yeah,
okay.
And that is a great way to experience, because I mean, you look at a painting and you're like, oh, it's a Dalí. There's a lot going on there, right?
Yeah.
But not everyone's like, what is going on there? What is happening? And the docents just tell most amazing stories about his work. So we also have a mobile guide, which I oversee that area. We work with Bloomberg Philanthropies. They have an app called Bloomberg Connects, which is a museum app, and they have about 900 cultural institutions on there. And it's interesting because they provide it free to every institution. I mean, Bloomberg's goal is art for all, and he wants people to be able to, access it for free, and he wants museums to provide the information for free. So if you have this Bloomberg Connects app, you can have access to, 900 cultural institutions globally. So that was great,
Amazing. I mean, do you feel that with this younger generation that they don't have the same engagement and appreciation for art?
I don't know how they find their way to art. I mean, I think, my marketing colleague probably has more insight on that. And, but I think that the average people just don't have the time span. The attention span, I guess. It's so different. So that I think is biologically, there's my bio, biologically has maybe changed the wiring in our brains. That people just have these expectations of things to constantly be happening. And young people, we appeal to them. We're on a lot of social platforms. We're on TikTok. We have influencers that come in and follow us. I think, we have a nice, audience of younger people. I think that I know when I lived in New York City, a lot of museums really reached out to young professionals. And I think museums do that. I think we do that too. So I think it's really important. I think also that what's interesting about us is the tech angle. I think there are people who are interested in technology may not realize that we are cutting edge in utilizing technology to the point where we're partnering with OpenAI, we're partnering with 11 Labs, and Google. And that I don't know if people in the community are aware of that, especially those who are involved in technology. I think if they found their way to the museum and engaged with those experiences, I think they'd learn more about art and Dalí through technology.
What about things like, NFTs and blockchain? Have you looked at any of those?
Not really. I'm on we have a tech advisory committee, and Kathy Wood is our co-chair with Jeff Goodby, and Kathy is on our board. So when we are looking at that, she's the one that is sort of the expert. I think initially when I started 3 years ago, it was kind of a hot topic.
Okay.
But I feel like it's kind of gone to the wayside, NFTs. What about you? Do you hear much about NFTs?
And now I feel like they were the hot thing for just a short period of time. And they're kind of, yes. Yeah. I was going to say that. I was trying to be more professional, but yeah, for a hot minute. And, I think they're kind of a pump and dump thing. They got really popular. Some people tried to make some good money off it. And I feel like it's kind of fallen by the wayside.
I think the blockchain, though, it's kind of interesting. I mean, it continues to evolve and develop.
Yes.
I don't follow it as much in terms of the role for the museum. But I feel like provenance and art has been a big issue, and blockchain, I think, is going to provide opportunities to be able to track the life cycle of a piece of art, and also financially reward the artist,
So you could trace it, right?
That's right. And every time you make a sale, they get a percentage, a small.
I think that's a very real possible application.
Van Gogh would be so wealthy right now.
I know.
Happened to him.
And just the mindset of between Dalí, who will live forever, and Van Gogh, who exactly. No one will care about my artwork.
Yeah.
We're kind of coming to the end, Beth, but wanted to just touch on, how does the outside world, I mean, you had good perception of this area from, being in New York and then moving to this area in 2011 and then going to Paris. Would you define the arts culture in Tampa Bay and St. Pete and the perception that the world has about us?
Well, okay. One of the reasons I really loved St. Pete, so I'm an artist, I dabble. But it was really important to me to be in a place where there's art, several museums. Fortunately, they opened up recently a art house cinema because I worked in film. So all of those things are really important. I love the murals. I think St. Pete is seen as an arts tourist destination. And I think we, as a community, we need to support that. I think it's important. And I feel like the museum, I know that the museum, in terms of the economic impact to our area, I've heard, $100 million of economic impact to St. Pete Clearwater area with like a direct 50 million per. I'm not like a economist, but
I've heard similar numbers.
So art clearly impacts the community, and I feel it's really important to support art. And I feel that it's a sports community, Tampa Bay, but it's also an arts community. And
very much.
It would be great if there was people saw value in both. Like I know, people will go to a football game and 3 hours or whatever, and what do you think that might cost at the end of 3 hours? With the ticket, and it's significant, right?
Very much.
And then they go to a museum, which is
hundreds, if not thousands, right?
Yeah. Well, they go to a museum which is less than a football game and provides you with 2.5 hours of entertainment. But sometimes people don't see the value in the price tag. And I think there is value in going to museums. Obviously, I work for one. So I feel like it is a great art town. It's just finding, enabling people to find their way to experience it. We have great museums. I mean,
we have a number of great museums, and including the Dalí. Anything else you want to share with our listeners that you want to convey about the museum or you? Or
no, I would just say that when I first moved here and I saw the Dalí Museum, the Dalí Museum, I was like, oh, a single artist museum, I went and that was it. But it's more than that, it's just, I say we are constantly rotating our exhibitions. We have so many community programs. There's something happening, 3 times a week at least. We have talks and things. And I think it's just important to, keep art in your life. Somebody said that art is a conduit to the human experience.
I like
if you
that.
think about just, I'm not an art historian, but if you think about when you look at art, there is some historic context there in terms of that painter, chances are they are reflecting their human experience at one time or another.
Yes, they were trying to convey something to whoever
Exactly.
is.
They're telling a story through that tool. So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So people want to contact you or know more about the Dalí, where would you direct them to?
B. Harrison at thedali.org. Feel free to reach out. And our website, thedali.org.
Great. Well, Beth, thank you so much for
Thank
taking the time to
you.
come on Money Market.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You can find the Money Market podcast at Bank of Tampa online and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X. And before you leave, make sure you like, follow, or subscribe. And until next time, we'll be sure to see you around in the Money Market.